Emily. Emily.
Plenty of seats.
I know. I was going back to let older people sit there, and I have to let older people sit down first. Yeah. Okay. All right. Take go sit down. The hard way. Boss is getting it. Please, there's seats. I know you're being gentleman, and I'm being like a young lady. Older people first.
Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to this great event. We're glad you all could join us. We appreciate President Chapman, Mayor Salmon keeping the rain away. You know, they say that the sun may not always shine in North Carolina, but the people always do. So we're glad to have such a great crowd, and I'm glad you can join us for this event. I want to start by first giving a quick overview of MCNC in case you're not familiar. MCNC is a 501c3 nonprofit client-focused technology organization. We are founded in 1980. We own and operate the North Carolina Research and Education Network, or NCREN. We are one of the largest and longest-running regional research and education networks in the nation. With more than 40 years of innovation, MCNC provides high-performance services for education, research, libraries, healthcare, public safety, and other community anchor institutions throughout North Carolina. We are the fundamental broadband infrastructure for more than 1,150 of these institutions, including all public K-12 education in North Carolina. As one of the nation's premier middle-mile fiber backbone networks, we leverage NCREN to customize protected internet, cybersecurity services becoming increasingly important these days, and related applications for each client while supporting private service providers, some of whom are here today, in bringing cost-efficient connectivity to rural, underserved, and overlooked communities across North Carolina. As I mentioned, today we're here to celebrate a fantastic project, what we call the HERO Project, which is the high-speed economies for rural opportunities. I want to take a moment to thank everybody for attending and recognize a few folks. Want to recognize first our team, folks, a manager of our fiber engineering services, Jeremy Rollins, Chauncey Ray, our manager of facilities, Tommy Jacobson, our chief operating officer. Also want to take a moment to thank folks for attending and for the work they've done thus far and their work they will continue on this project. Our vendors, Tar Heel Contractor Supply, KVA, River City Electric, CVO, Brett Boswell from Vermeer, thank you for the very cool equipment you brought today. I understand there's going to be free rides and photo ops after the remarks. We've had several requests, and Brett told me that was fine. Dave told me he has one key that operates any piece of Vermeer equipment, so although that is remote controlled, you don't need a key.
We'll take care of
You can remote control that one. So I thank you all for being here. I was telling a few folks before we started that you know, one of the things about this project is interesting. Why do we pick this location? One, because Sanford's a fantastic town, great leadership with Mayor Salmon and President Chapman here. But it's a continuation of MCNC's effort and the effort by both state and federal entities such as NTIA and Secretary Perez's team as well. More than a decade ago, broadband was expanded and brought to Sanford as part of the BTOP program under President Obama's administration. Our hut is right over there near the tower over there that you see. So that was a story a decade or so ago. We didn't have the event there because it's uphill and it's all gravel, so we wanted you to be much more comfortable, right? Although if it was uncomfortable, the speeches get shorter, but we'll keep it there. This is a continuation of that story, right? This route will now connect from Sanford to Jacksonville by way of Fayetteville. So this is a story of past, present, and future. It's a continuity story. It's again furthering MCNC's mission of delivering much needed broadband. Very much appreciate everybody being here. We'll have a brief program here and then some photo ops. We encourage you to stick around. We did bring lunch. and some refreshments there. If you need anything during the event, please let me know. Reach out to me or a member of my team or throughout this crowd here. With that, I would like to start our event by introducing Tracy Dokes, the President and CEO of MCNC.
Thank you, Jim. I will have to say I've had 20 years in state government, been in and out of it for 20 years, and a brief stint as state CIO and a longer stint as deputy state CIO, and now the president and CEO of MCNC. I can proudly say this is the pinnacle. This is the peak of what I've ever experienced in my career. To be doing something that's so impactful for the people across the state is, I think, a goal that any public servant would want to meet, and it's very, very exciting. So what I want to start off with is today is a great day. We already mentioned what my name is, but on behalf of our MCNC board member, our advisory council members, I see a few out there in the audience today, and our fantastic team, we're happy that you could join us today to signify the start of our HERO project right here on the beautiful campus of Central Carolina Community College. And again, President Chapman, thank you for having us. Mayor Salmon, thank you for allowing us to be in your lovely city as well. 4 years ago, I started at MCNC, and it might have been my second day when the VP and COO of MCNC, Tommy Jacobson, did he hide already? There, but Tommy Jacobson, so on that second, it might have been the second day. So he's given me a run through of all of our fiber, almost 5,000 miles of fiber infrastructure, broadband infrastructure across the state. And he says, Tracy, look at this map. Do you see this right here? And I said, well, there's nothing there. He said, exactly my point. It is a big gaping hole where we have no fiber, there's no connectivity, and somehow we've got to get that filled. So, 2 years later, we submitted a proposal for a project called High Speed Economies for Rural Opportunity, or HERO, as Jim mentioned, and here we stand today to mark that significant milestone, which is also a testament to our shared vision and unwavering commitment to broadband connectivity and opportunity for all North Carolinians. Many of the folks have heard me say, if any of you have heard me speak, I've said this is our moment, and this is a moment we will not get again. And when we think about HERO, as I was driving in this morning, I thought about what makes a hero. Heroes inspire, they motivate, they make positive impact on the lives of others. This can be through acts of bravery, selflessness, compassion, and simply leading by example, which I hope all of us share in the ability to do that and what we're talking about at this groundbreaking today. Heroes can come in all shapes and sizes, from everyday people to extraordinary organizations, but all share a common quality. They embody the very best of humanity to benefit society. North Carolina's broadband challenges require bold strategies, but mainly action. Reliable, accessible, and affordable broadband is a cornerstone of economic growth, education, and community development. Addressing digitally distressed areas, closing the homework gap, the senior gap, the healthcare gap, all of the critical technology gaps that we all know still exist today, is an economic and social priority in our state. North Carolina is poised to become a national leader, dare I say, the national leader, ranking in the top 5 states for high-speed internet adoption. When North Carolinians in every corner of this state can access, afford, and use high-speed internet, they can take advantage of career, education, and healthcare resources. Smart investments into broadband will continue to drive our local economies to new heights And this project is a testament to our community's spirit of collaboration and a shared belief in a brighter future through innovation. There are so many to thank and recognize for helping to bring our broadband hero to life. The collaboration with the White House and the NTIA over the last few years has been invaluable. Their guidance and support through the President's Internet for All initiative has helped bring us this momentous occasion today. I'd like to personally welcome again Assistant Commerce Secretary and NTIA Administrator Alan Davidson. Thank you for being here. Tom Perez, the Senior Presidential Advisor and Director of the White House Office of Intergovernmental Affairs. I had to read that. That is just such a mouthful to say. And a special welcome to Elaine Sloan, who has been our Federal Program Officer for BTOP, which is over a decade ago, and now for HERO. Thank you all for being here and making travels to be here with us today. I also wanted to express my sincere gratitude to our local, state, and federal elected officials who have remained committed to MCNC for over 40 years. With us today are Secretary Jim Weaver, our state CIO with the North Carolina Department of Information Technology, and Nate Denny, the Deputy Secretary of Broadband and Digital Equity, also at North Carolina Department of IT. Welcome. The Golden Leaf Foundation continues to be a phenomenal partner, believing that investments in broadband today are the right thing to do for North Carolina tomorrow. Golden Leaf President Scott Hamilton, I'm not sure if he made it today, but we are so appreciative of your ongoing support of our mission here at MCNC. So MCNC has always been about connecting North Carolina's future today. This suggests that today's actions will lead to positive outcomes. For over 4 decades, MCNC is connected and protected, a shout out to our vital cybersecurity services, our communities with high-speed internet and networking technologies in all 100 counties across North Carolina. We have a successful history and a track record of expanding broadband into places that have been underserved and overlooked. We remain committed to closing the digital divide so that all North Carolinians can live better educated, wealthier, and healthier lives. MCNC received $11.2 million from the U.S. Department of Commerce's National Telecommunications and Information Administration, also known as NTIA, for the HERO project. So it was funded through the Federal Internet for All initiative. The HERO project will directly support improvements to broadband access and affordability in central and southeastern North Carolina. With MCNC's investment, along with the support of Golden Leaf Foundation, the total HERO project is estimated at $19 million. The 11 counties to benefit from this project in central and southeastern North Carolina currently have 16,000 unserved and 12,000 underserved housing units, including many substantially unserved local communities across those areas. In total, HERO would impact over 350,000 housing units and 696 community anchor institutions, bringing high-speed internet and new opportunities to many rural and economically challenged areas. This expansion of MCNC's open access network, more than 2 additional miles added to our 5,000 miles of fiber infrastructure, will enhance the affordability strategies of last-mile commercial providers in these areas and help support essential construction and engineering jobs during this project. HERO is the next chapter of MCNC's fantastic story based on building digital highway that directly supports innovative research, idea formation, equity of access to education, and better healthcare outcomes for rural North Carolinians. As we break ground today, we lay the high-speed foundation for a future where everyone has a chance to succeed. This project serves as a catalyst for economics and social growth, job creation, and community development. And I'd also like to extend that to thriving communities that are really, really important to this project as well. But this is what heroes do, going back to my definition. So our future requires a collective effort to address the challenges we face to build a more sustainable, equitable, and innovative world. Let us continue to work together with passion. I just lost my place. Passion and purpose to ensure the success of this project. And may it be a source of pride for generations to come. Again, thank you all for being here, sharing this moment with us and with you. And now I'll introduce Nate Denny.
Thank you so much, Tracy. Thank you to President Chapman and Mayor Salmon for hosting us here today. And thanks also to Secretary Davidson and Secretary Perez for joining us. I think another theme of the day is that leadership matters. Right? The Biden-Harris administration has made a commitment to connecting everyone across the country with affordable, reliable, high-speed internet through the bipartisan infrastructure law. Through a set of Internet for All programs, including the Middle Mile Infrastructure Grant Program that we're talking about today, North Carolina is going to benefit from more than $1.5 billion of funding to make sure every single home is connected, every single business is connected. In-state, Governor Roy Cooper has made this a huge priority throughout his administration, even before the pandemic revealed just how urgent these upgrades were. And using American Rescue Plan funds, he came to a bipartisan agreement with the General Assembly to use more than $1 billion to get a jump start, even before we benefit from the bipartisan infrastructure law funding. To date, we've awarded just over $400 million of that and have a lot more to do over the next few months. So we've connected already 189,000 unserved homes and businesses in about 95 of our 100 states. So we're moving in North Carolina. We've also, thanks to the governor's leadership, created the nation's first Office of Digital Equity and Literacy that's awarded about $45 million to help address adoption issues, help folks afford high-speed internet, help them get the devices and the digital skills they need to really participate in the modern economy. But we benefit through all this work from strong partnerships, right? The leadership that MCNC has shown and that Tracy has shown is critical to our work. We, including Tracy and the whole MCNC team, also benefit from the foresight and wisdom of state leaders who decades ago thought we really ought to connect every classroom, every community college to the information superhighway. Because of those long-term investments and because of the work that Tracy and team are doing now to build a more robust middle mile network and connect more of our anchor institutions, we're in a position to actually get the job done. We've got the funding, we've got strong partnerships, whether it's MCNC, the Rural Center is here, county and local governments all across the state, all chipping in together, and our private sector internet providers, our electric membership cooperatives and telephone membership cooperatives, all working together to get the job done. So we're really at both a unique moment and a unique alignment of leadership, right, and partnership. And I just want to say thank you to Tracy, to our federal partners, and to all of you for all your work, and congratulations. With that, very brief remarks, I want to introduce Secretary Jim Weaver from NCDIT. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. So first off, Nate, must thank you and the team that's here for the awesome work that you all continue to do. And I'm sorry, I don't want to be a top 5 state, Tracy. I want to be number 1. Let's be clear. We want to be number 1, right? Yeah. So top 5's not good enough. We want to be number 1. So anyway, and so Nate and his team have been tremendous in stepping up to this challenge and leading the way. As I said to Assistant Secretary down there, it's like, I want North Carolina to be the national leader across the board. And we constantly, and Governor Cooper makes his comment often to me when he goes to national meetings about how much praise people are envious of the great work that's going on here in North Carolina. So that's not a credit to me, it's not necessarily a credit to Nate, but it's a credit to all of us here today in making these opportunities happen. I want to thank Tracy. I'm good to know that CIO does not stand for career is over, so there's an opportunity later in life here, and you've been very successful in that transition, so may have to do that here at the end of the year myself, and we'll see how that goes. But also for Assistant Secretaries Davidson and Perez for coming up to North Carolina as well, or coming down to North Carolina, I should say. And you got a cool title, Tom, so I don't wonder, how's that fit on a business card? See the other side. See the other side. And to the mayor and to the community college president, thank you for hosting us today as well. You all know that our community college system here in North Carolina is tremendous. Having worked in 3 different states, I have never seen such a robust community college system like here in North Carolina. A community college system is able to pivot to meet the challenges that are emerging, not only across technology, but vocational and everything else. So it's extremely important and so appropriate that we're here at a community college setting, because this is where a lot of the workforce training is actually occurring on today. As you know, Governor Cooper's not here, so he sends his regrets. Of all the days this week, this was probably the worst day for him from a scheduling aspect, and he couldn't pull it off. So you have player B, and I apologize in advance for that. But with that, as Nate has been saying, as Tracy has been saying, North Carolina continues to close the digital divide. And I kind of grimace a little bit when I hear digital divide, because it seems like it's something that's going to be fixable. It's a digital continuum, right? We're going to be constantly looking at this as technology evolves, as speeds and feeds continue to evolve. We can't afford to leave a single North Carolinian behind in this journey because of the economic impact. When we start thinking about our rural communities, we think about where is the population growth starting to occur. It's in our rural areas, and it's not necessarily from the state demographics looking at younger generation folks. It's looking at older folks who are retiring and looking to get away from the suburban urban life, and that now puts different stressors out there. When we start thinking about telemedicine, telehealth, we start thinking about grandchildren visiting, we start thinking about education and how we have to deliver these important things. Technology is behind that, and if we don't have connectivity, all the technology in the world is not going to matter. And so we cannot afford to leave any of our children behind here, and we have to make sure that we get every household connected. And the fact that we get these small businesses connected, what a game changer that is. What is a force multiplier that will do for us from an economic aspect here in North Carolina as well. Nate mentioned about Governor Cooper's plan, and I can go back to February 21, first time I met Governor Cooper. It was supposed to be a 20-minute meeting. 45 minutes later, we were still talking about broadband. And he made it very clear to me that if I was selected as his Secretary of IT, broadband, my number 1 priority was going to be broadband. And we talked a lot about it, and I asked a lot of questions. We talked about what his plans were as he was going into that long set legislative session, the ask that was going to be made, how we were going to tell a story, right? Because it's one thing to get a lot of money, it's another thing to actually deliver and be able to effectively tell that story. So metrics and how we're meeting our objectives and what we're trying to accomplish going through this state. And so little did I know, in about April of 21, I came on board in March, and in April, somehow all the broadband got consolidated in Department of Information Technology. And after that happened, I smiled and it's like, oh wow, that's great. And then I'm like, Nate, I got a challenge for you. and so I can't underestimate the fact that Nate and the team he has assembled to be able to go ahead and execute and carry out what we're doing here in North Carolina under Governor Cooper's leadership has been tremendous. And we continue to make a lot of progress. I'm not going to go through the dollars. Nate can rattle those numbers off better than I can. But when you look at the fact that in a bipartisan manner, a little north of $1 billion of ARPA funding has been allocated thus far, we are working very diligently through a myriad of programs to get those funds out the door into our internet service providers. And at the same time, too, this is not a one way of giving money out. Our internet service providers are making an investment back into North Carolina. So while we have close to $500 million that has been allocated now out to different work streams that are occurring throughout our state, and if you ever get the chance, go out to NC1 Map. You can drill in on your county in full transparency. You can see the projects that are underway, what communities. You could probably almost drill down to the block, census block, to the address, and really take a look at it. But you can see what's underway. You can see what the progress is being made across our ISPs. But our ISPs have also made $180-some million of investments back into North Carolina. So this is a commitment. It is a partnership across our ISPs here in the state as well. So again, we can't lose sight of that aspect as well. You know, our federal partners are extremely important. And Assistant Secretary Davidson will, first question I said, it's great to see you again when you're improving our BEAD plan. Right, that's the $1.53 billion that is allocated or targeted to be coming to North Carolina through a myriad of different programs, and we're going through the process of getting those approvals secured. That's going to be huge for us. So another $1.53 billion of federal infrastructure funds are coming our way here in North Carolina to make a difference. And to something that Tracy said earlier on, this is a no-fail proposition. We cannot fail at this. We have to succeed in this because the future of North Carolina, the future of the workforce here, the future of our children are at stake here. If we do not deliver on this, if we leave a community behind, the outcome's not going to be good. We're never going to have an opportunity like this again. This is generational. It's our time to step up to the plate and deliver on these important projects. And so we need to make sure that we're doing that. And even 2 years ago, I can remember talking with Tracy, because I think Tracy showed me the same map, and I said, there's a big open area. And that was before she had, MCNC had submitted for that, the middle mile project that we're here today to celebrate. And extremely important. So partners like MCNC here delivering, and again, we have the largest education network. So again, we're number one. Thank you, Tracy. In the country.
40 years in the making.
It doesn't matter how long it took. We're number one. So we'll keep that. But anyway, the importance of the middle mile is tremendous here, and the fact that we have a tremendous partner like MCNC who has vision, who has purpose, who's looking out to figure out what is in the best interest for the state of North Carolina has been phenomenal, and it's been great to work with MCNC on this and support their efforts as they continue to expand and build redundancy across the middle mile network that we have here in North Carolina. And then we'd be remiss without thanking our federal partners. The fact that we have two prominent assistant secretaries here in our midst today, Secretary Davidson and Secretary Perez, is tremendous, and it shows you the commitment from the Biden administration to North Carolina and to the efforts we have here underway. And as Assistant Secretary Davidson knows, again, I was very clear with him, we want to be number one. I'm very proud to go around, talk to my colleagues across the country, and brag about the great work that's going on here in North Carolina. You all sitting here today should be proud of the efforts that are underway. Again, go out to NC1 Map, take a look at the progress we're making, take a look at the transparency, the data that we're making available to you all. And the beauty of that is that a lot of that data is being fed here from the local government level. The data sets that we're leveraging in these mapping exercises are the same data sets that we're using for Next Gen 911 purposes. So when you call your PSAP or you call 911, it's the same data sets. Who knows better about their addresses than all of you here at the local level, not us at the state level? And so that information that you are using for purposes of 911 calls is being also leveraged by many other areas of DIT to include our broadband effort. And that has led to some very successful challenges across the board over the last couple of years to FCC mapping, to what was considered unserved versus underserved. And I think in large part has been one of the primary drivers for us getting more money from the BEAD program than was originally targeted for state of North Carolina. So again, continuous efforts, and we thank our federal partners for your ongoing support of those as well. Now, enough for comments here. I want to set the stage here for Assistant Secretary Davidson. Has been a phenomenal partner of us. I can't tell you enough how NTIA has been working with us over the last couple of years as we submit our different portions of the plan for BEAD to begin to draw down that $1.53 billion to continue the great work here in North Carolina. And so without further ado, let me welcome Assistant Secretary Davidson to the stage. Everything that Tracy has. Tracy, hopefully you didn't need that in a particular order. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Jim. Thank you for that introduction, and it really is great to be back here. And you know, it was really just a little over 2 years ago that the three of us, Tracy, Nate, Jim, and I, were here together with the governor and with Secretary Raimondo to kick off, to start for the national launch of the Internet for All program. And how wonderful to be back here together. We keep coming back to North Carolina for good news. How great to be here together. There's nothing like a groundbreaking, maybe a tractor ride if I'm lucky. I also do want to thank MCNC and the college, the mayor for being here, and the city for hosting us. Thank you for joining us in this celebration, really, of this exciting moment for North Carolina and our broader efforts to bridge the digital divide. We're here today because the internet has become, as we've said, the essential tool, right? The essential tool for communications in our modern world. It's essential for access to jobs, access to education, access to healthcare, access to opportunity. And yet today, in America, right, in 2024, there are still tens of thousands of families across North Carolina, millions of families across this country who do not have access, cannot get access to that basic internet connection that they need to thrive in the modern digital economy. That is about to change. We've been talking about the digital divide in this country for over 25 years. But now, thanks to the leadership of the Biden-Harris administration, thanks to the bipartisan infrastructure law, we finally have the resources to do something serious and lasting about it. The administration has a very simple but ambitious mission, and that is, as we've heard, to connect everybody in America with reliable, affordable, high-speed internet service. We call it the Internet for All initiative, and yes, we do mean all, right? We only succeed in this if everyone is connected. And under that initiative, we're going to be investing on the order of $90 billion across the country. $1.5 billion coming to North Carolina to connect everyone across the state to that affordable, reliable, high-speed internet service. And we need to do that to make sure that everybody in the state has the ability to thrive in this modern digital economy. Today's groundbreaking, and I do love the history that we're here in the shadow of a previous investment in middle mile infrastructure. Today's groundbreaking is part of this broader middle mile program. Nearly $1 billion to build these regional networks that are going to connect the local community networks. And I love to think about these middle mile networks as like the big interstate highways of our broader national internet. They're going to connect the smaller local roads that ultimately bring service directly to people's homes. And these connections, like the ones we're talking about today, they're critical to closing the digital divide with cost-effective service because they carry huge amounts of data over long distances. They increase the capacity of local networks. They boost the resilience of our networks. They're going to lower costs by bringing high-speed internet service closer to the unconnected homes that we ultimately need to connect. And they really will help us connect unserved regions in North Carolina and across the country with that broader internet backbone. So we think of this middle mile program as a force multiplier in our efforts to connect everyone in America. And that's exactly what the HERO program, I love it, the High Speed Economics for Rural Opportunity Project, is doing here today. And as you've heard, NTIA is providing MCNC with more than $11 million for the HERO project. I have to say congratulations to MCNC too. This was an extremely competitive grant program. We were, it was a $1 billion grant program. We received nearly $6 billion in grant applications. So we were not able to give out, and there were a lot of very worthy projects. So I have to say congratulations. This was an incredible application, an incredible grant project, and we're so pleased to be able to serve it. And as we've heard, 11 counties in North Carolina that are going to get that are going to be served by this increase in the fiber backbone. Over 200 miles of fiber that's being built, and this route down to Jacksonville will also. I will just wanted to note, it's also going to benefit our men and women in uniform. The route, as I understand it, is now going to be able to service 4 military installations and their surrounding communities. That includes Fort Bragg, Pope Army Airfield, Camp Lejeune, and the Marine Corps Air Station New River. So that's very important to us also to be able to support those communities. Today's groundbreaking means that the people of North Carolina are one step closer to that vision of a more affordable and reliable high-speed internet service for everyone. I'll just take a moment to say, a program like this doesn't happen by itself. We benefited from our partnership, but I did want to give a quick shout out to the team in this middle mile program that is not often recognized, but has done a huge amount of work. Our NTIA team, Sarah Blue, who's our middle mile director, Elaine Sloan, our middle mile federal program officer, Will Rao, who's our state federal program officer. Their work is essential to this, and please join me in saluting that team. Thank you. In closing, I just wanted to note that today's announcement is really part of something much bigger that's happening across America. It's part of a historic opportunity, as Tracy said. There is a movement growing across this country, and we see it, to connect everyone, to help everyone thrive. It's a movement that is happening on factory floors where network equipment, fiber optic cable, like we saw up in Hickory, North Carolina, where that equipment's being made. It's happening in community centers and senior centers, libraries and town halls, church groups and veteran groups who are teaching digital skills to their communities. And it's happening on the sides of roads and highways and at sites like this one where cable and conduit are being laid. And it's a movement to connect everyone, to help everyone thrive. And you all are now part of that movement too, that movement to connect everyone. And it's happening at a once-in-a-generation moment of opportunity. We will not, as Tracy said, get this chance again. We will not get these resources again that we have. Generations before us did really big things. They brought electricity and water to everyone in rural America. They built the interstate highway system. This is our generation's big infrastructure moment. This is our chance to together connect everyone in America with what they need to thrive in this modern economy. It's going to take a lot of work. We need everybody to do their part. I want to thank you all for your leadership and for your partnership in this project. And together, I know that we can make this dream of the internet for all a reality at last. So thank you. I'll say I now have the great pleasure of introducing Tom Perez. He is the former Secretary of Labor, not Assistant Secretary, I gotta correct you. He's like a legit Secretary of Labor. And currently serves as the President's Director of Intergovernmental Affairs in the White House. I'll say, take a moment to say, Tom is an incredibly dedicated public servant. He's dedicated his career to public service. He's been a tireless advocate for the workers in this country, for equity in this country, and I've learned a lot from him. He's been an incredible supporter of this work that we do, and it is a great pleasure. Well, I should say also, he's a great road trip partner. I'll just make that note. It is a great pleasure to introduce to you Tom Perez.
here. Alan, thank you so much for your kind introduction. You know, I used to coach my kids in basketball for 15 years, and I'd tell them to guard someone. I'd say, you know, you got to guard that player. He's got game, or she's got game. He's got game, and his team has game. And thank you for what you're doing. And thank you to all the members of Team Cooper, Secretary Weaver, Deputy Secretary Denny. You know, I can't tell you the number of times when we're discussing something at the White House, a policy issue, and we ask the question, who's doing it right? All too frequently. Talk to the Cooper folks, because they're getting it right. You know, we had 21 million people enroll in the Affordable Care Act exchange last year. Over 1 million were here in North Carolina. You know, you look at the number of seniors because of the work we're doing to lower pharmaceutical drug costs. Over 2 million seniors here in North Carolina are benefiting from those Inflation Reduction Act moments that are allowing prescription drug prices to come down. And again, we were looking, who's doing it right? North Carolina. Education has been a staple here in this state, not only with Governor Cooper, but with others. And I remember traveling to this state when I was your labor secretary to watch your community college system. Madam President, you preside over a gem. You know, you understand that you got to take people where they are, meet them where they are, and inspire them to punch their ticket to the middle class. And there's no better engine of upward mobility than your community college system here in the great state of North Carolina. I've seen it firsthand. And I know if the First Lady were here, she'd tell me the same thing. Because I traveled here to North Carolina with her when she was the Second Lady, and we spoke at a community college, and we had a lot of administrators in the room, and they didn't realize that she was not only the Second Lady, but she was an active, full-time community college professor. You should have seen their eyes wide open when they saw that. So that's what it's all about. And Mayor Salmon, you know, local government, I served in 20 years ago. You can't print money. You know, when you go out to get something to eat, people are asking you, I need your help. And you do it with great aplomb. So I want to say thank you to you as well. And again, I want to start, Tracy, by just building on something you said, because I wrote it down. And Alan reiterated it. This is our moment. You know, one thing history teaches us is that it's important to understand the moment in which you live. Because if you don't understand the moment, you don't meet the moment. And when that moment passes you by, you will regret missing that moment. I would argue that the two most tumultuous decades of the 20th century were the decade of the 1930s and the decade of the 1960s. We had a Great Depression. We had a global conflict. We had fascism in the form of Hitler. And during that decade, we had the New Deal. We had so much progress. And similarly, the decade of the 60s, the Vietnam War, the Civil Rights Movement. And during that tumultuous decade, we had the Civil Rights Act of '64, the Voting Rights Act of '65, Medicare, Medicaid, the Fair Housing Act of '68, passed roughly a week after the assassination of Dr. King. We did big things as a nation during moments of seemingly gravest crisis. Think about where we were 4 years ago. We wouldn't have been here. We would have all been home. We would have been masked. Some of us may have been at funerals for loved ones who were lost. Our democracy is fragile. You know, that dependent clause, we the people, in order to form a more perfect union, our union has never been perfect. But the journey has been to form that more perfect union. And we have succeeded in many ways. But we must always concede that it's never been a linear journey. And 4 years ago, we were simply worried about keeping people alive. And when President Biden and Vice President Harris took office, they understood the magnitude of the moment. They understood the crises, plural, that we were confronting as a nation. But they also understood history. They understood that moments of gravest crisis are also moments of greatest opportunity. Opportunities to do big things. And so when you said, that's why I wanted to come back to you, Tracy. Virginia is very sad that you left. I can tell you that, because you got game too. And what you're doing now is nothing short of remarkable. But when you say this is our moment, that's exactly what Joe Biden and Kamala Harris said. And they understood that when we have the moment of opportunity to do big things, you need to have a vision. You need to have North Star principles that guide you throughout, so that when you're in the nitty-gritty, you have the capacity to step back and make sure that we are following that North Star. And so on day one, the president issued an executive order that doesn't get a lot of attention, but it's an executive action that has been the guiding principle of everything that has been done in this administration. And I can distill it down to one word, and that word is equity. He understood that if we want to do big things, we need to do big things for everyone. Now, equity undeniably and appropriately means racial equity. Equally importantly, we discussed, and he wrote in that executive order, geographic equity. Because all too many counties and communities have been left behind in our nation's admittedly imperfect journey to form that more perfect union. And so that principle is what guided everything. You look at the American Rescue Plan. The American Rescue Plan is local government's best friend, and has been, and will continue to be, and state government's best friend, because it was a statement of trust. It said, Governor Cooper, you know, and your team knows, and the people of North Carolina know what is best for you. And we are giving you that flexibility. Mayor, we know that you are at the front lines, and you know what is going on in your community, and we trust you. And that trust was well placed. And the initial investments in infrastructure were part, in no small measure, as Alan correctly pointed out, of the American Rescue Plan and the dollars that were so well spent. We also know, and we look back 4 years ago, and one of the searing memories of the pandemic were those awful images of parents getting in the car and driving to the McDonald's or driving to the strip mall because their kids had to go to school and they couldn't get broadband at home because they didn't have it, or they had lousy broadband. Or you read these other stories that were all too frequent, you know, of frankly, people who couldn't get health care at all, because it really educated us that telehealth isn't a nice to do thing, it's a must do thing, as Dr. Jimenez, who's been in rural health his entire career here in North Carolina, can attest. And what we learned, and if there's a silver lining from an undeniably just horrific pandemic, that silver lining was finally the understanding that, you know, internet, high speed, affordable internet, is really like water. It's an essential public good that needs to be affordable and accessible to everyone. And by the way, water is an essential public good. And you shouldn't have to worry about whether the water that's coming out of your sink at home is lead infested. And that's why the president has not only committed to making sure that we have affordable high-speed internet for all, but we've made investments. And again, Governor Cooper has been a leader in making sure that we remove all the lead pipes that are infesting communities across the country. Don't be mistaken. Flint, Michigan was horrifically bad, and it was not an exception. And we need to understand that. And the president and the vice president understood this. And that is why they thought big. And because of these investments, these generational investments, we're not talking about infrastructure weeks anymore, weeks that, end up kind of fizzling. We are in the throes of an infrastructure decade. We're going to be in Cape Fear tomorrow. Money has come to the state of North Carolina to replace the Cape Fear Bridge. That's been a discussion underway for decades. I think the bridge is like 54 years old. It's almost eligible for Medicare. And it's in need of replacement. Past folks have talked about it, but President Biden and Vice President Harris did something about it. And so I implore you, and if there's one and only one thing you recall from my remarks, it's that this really is the moment. And you are meeting the moment. That is the good news. You have met the moment in abundance, not simply in the context of what we're discussing today, which is exciting beyond all get out to me, because I have seared in my memory banks. I get to make a lot of house calls. Alan gets to make a lot of house calls in this job. And one of the house calls in the broadband context that sticks in my mind is talking to a woman in rural Wisconsin who runs a federally qualified health clinic. And she shared two stories with me, one good, one horrifically bad, of two women who were in mental health crisis. One had access to high-speed internet and one didn't. And you know where this story is going. The one who had it was able to have good outcomes, and the one who didn't had tragically sad but undeniably avoidable outcomes. And so when we talk about these things, we all see it through our own lens. I see it through the lens of those families, who they had to, the dad and the mom had to work at night because they needed the internet in the day for the kids to go to school. I see it through the lens of farmers I've met across the country who are using high-speed internet to do precision agriculture that allows them to maximize their yields. I mean, there are countless uses to what you are doing here. And you have known that, and you've taken advantage of it. And you are adjusting, and you have a workforce that you are building. Because, as someone said to me earlier, I think it may have been you, Mayor, or President, you've always made things here in North Carolina. And now you're going to continue to make things, except you're going to make more money doing it, because these are middle-class jobs. And that's what it's all about. That's what equity is about. We want to build an economy that works for everyone. And when I see an unemployment rate here that's 3.6%, as your former labor secretary, that brings a smile to my face. And as I see the gap between white and non-white unemployment narrow, that brings a smile to my face. That tells me we're making progress on the equity lens. And when I see the continued expansion of access to health care in this state, thanks to this partnership, federal, state, local, business, nonprofits. And folks, my final observation to you is that we've only just begun. I haven't spoken about our commitments to combating climate change. The Inflation Reduction Act has ushered in an unprecedented level of private sector investment. And North Carolina, again, has been very poised and is taking advantage of these opportunities. And you should talk to if you have friends in the faith community, you should tell them that if they want to transform their place of worship with solar panels, guess what? The Inflation Reduction Act can help you. If you are considering replacing your HVAC system at home, guess what? You can get a tax credit. Because if you move to a cleaner energy system, you can get a subsidy. There are so many ways, shapes, and forms in which we are meeting this moment. And we've got to meet it together. We've got to continue to do it in partnership. I know if the president and the vice president were here, they would tell you that, boy, we've had some challenging times. But they've never been more optimistic. Because everywhere we go, we see gritty people like yourselves working in partnership. This isn't about me, it's about us. It's about how do we succeed together. And we know that we all succeed only when we all succeed. And we all succeed when every zip code succeeds. Because we have to face it, that zip code should never determine destiny, but it all too frequently affected destiny because it all too frequently impacted opportunity. And that's what we're changing. This Investing in America agenda is that generational opportunity for our country. We have only just begun these investments, and already you're seeing remarkable dividends. So let's continue this work together. We are so excited to be that partner. We're going to continue to be that partner, and we're going to continue to be calling Team Cooper and others in North Carolina, because you really have set the tone on so many areas for how to get good things done, and in so doing, how to help folks in so many different ways. So thank you all for what you're doing. Thanks for being here today. And you know, that is pretty cool. When I was in Macungie, Pennsylvania recently, I got to drive an electric trash truck, which municipalities are buying. And by the way, you know how electric vehicles work. You know, stop and start, stop and start. I used to work on the back of a trash truck, so I know a little bit about that. And you know, it's the perfect electric vehicle. But these are pretty cool too. So thank you for having me. And again, thank you for, you should be thanking yourselves and congratulating yourselves for what you're doing. You know, you got to have a few days like this where you take a step backward. You know, just take a step back and, you know, get off the dance floor and on the balcony and reflect on where you were, you know, where you are and where we're going. And, you know, I look at that area right there, and I see where we were 10, 15 years ago, and this is about continuous improvement. That was a big deal back then, and it continues to be a big deal. This is a big deal, and we're going to have even more big deals here. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you, Secretary Perez. Thank you all very much to all of our guests and to all of you for joining us. I guess there's only one thing left to do, and that is the ceremonial groundbreaking here.
Why'd you wear white shoes?
I can wash.
Careful, be careful.
I can wash.
Other duties at the time.
I like this. I like it.
Okay. We will take your lead. What do we want to do?
All right, why doesn't everybody just lift a little bit of dirt
Yeah, here we
and
go.
smile?
Here we go. Lift.
Lift
Look
and
up.
smile.
Lift and look up.
Good. Look at the cameras. Look at a bunch of them. All right. That's great.
Now put your foot on it, so it really looks like you're
I
sitting
know,
down.
right?
Here we go.
There you go. Put your foot on.